So we have this hygiene system of these councils where people get anathematized and they get pushed off into somewhere else. And that helps keep the church clean in a theological sense, at least, in a way that the Protestant groups like the Church of Sweden, they don't have any roots. So if someone wants to cross-dress and refuse to do heterosexual marriage, I mean, what council can you look to say no, right? Well, did you see that the new what happened in the Church of Sweden last week?
No, what happened?
So they have a very openly gay cross-dressing, quote, priest who has now decided that he will not perform heterosexual marriages.
Yep.
He will only do gay quote marriages. So I
over
think
the
yes,
rail.
There are degrees of difference, certainly, and we're not going to have issues quite like that. And I think that's important to acknowledge too, because when you have a teaching that doesn't change, and this is one of the most important parts of having apostolic traditions that have lasted 2,000 years, anyone saying we should change this is immediately excluded from the group. There's no debate about it. There's no maybe he's right. It's just, oh, you're preaching something that the apostles didn't teach, and you're out of the group now. And that's our ecclesiastical hygiene that's kept this church around for 2,000 years. Really, the real miracle of orthodoxy and the proof that it's the church Christ planted is that it's still around despite having such horrible bishops and patriarchs in the past. You know, all of our worst hierarchs, or I'm sorry, worst heretics, except for Arius, have been bishops and patriarchs. So we have this hygiene system of these councils where people get anathematized and they get pushed off into somewhere else. And that helps keep the church clean in a theological sense, at least, in a way that the Protestant groups like the Church of Sweden, they don't have any roots. So if someone wants to cross-dress and refuse to do heterosexual marriage, I mean, what council can you look to say no, right? What's going on? Is there a baby crying out there?
Yeah, I don't know where that is.
Oh, maybe it's me.
Yeah, I think it must be.
Pedro's crying?
Yeah. No. Yeah, that's what I mean is this is the type of structure that you see everywhere. It's a global phenomenon. There's everywhere that you go now, they call this the Globo-Homo campaign, right? Mm-hmm. But when you look into it, there does seem to be, and we discussed this before, a massive outreach to various churches who have lots of influence worldwide. And I found out the Orthodox Church is not immune to being approached by this as well. No. It's also susceptible to various organizations that want to give them money for treatment programs, right? Mm-hmm. We want to help you establish a treatment program and that's to help people. But when you look into what the treatment programs are, it's literally the devil's money.
Well, I think Satan's done with Catholicism, kind of won that fight. So I think we're probably next on the radar.
Yeah. I mean, and it does look like the upwards approach. What I was reading in my research was that a lot of young men are moving over towards Orthodoxy, and I think that it's pretty obvious why. There's a spirit of masculinity there for them. There's also kind of this anti-degeneracy spirit that's there, and it's a very pro-family message, very pro. Almost you could say it's pro-human, right? It's a really pro-human message. Yeah. And I think that a lot of young men are very attracted to that because of the masculinity of that message. And so, of course, where young men are, what's the first thing you try to do? They're the ones who you need to affect the most, as they're going to be the future fathers of the world. And so, I do think that you're going to start seeing these stepped up attacks now that the Protestant church has been so readily infiltrated. And the Catholic Church is probably beyond repair at this point. I'm not saying there's not hope, because there might be, but it sure looks to me like it's beyond hope. I think that the attacks are going to step up.
Well, this is the problem. And I empathize with Catholics who are taking their faith seriously and trying to follow Christ the best they can, because the position that they're stuck in now is they have this Pope who's a manifest heretic, is a term that they like to use, right? Pope Francis. And then some of them become sedevacantists, where they say, well, he can't be the real Pope because he's such a heretic. But the problem is, it was the College of Cardinals that elected Pope Francis. So if they're going to say he's not the Pope, they also have to say the mechanism that elects the popes is itself broken.
In error.
And then therefore, there is no solution to it, right? Because what's to stop these people from electing another heretic? So they're kind of in a no-win situation where they either resist the worst of Pope Francis but stay in their church, or they become sedevacantists, which is just this schismatic group of people that inevitably have very similar psychological issues based on my interactions with them, or they go off and become Orthodox. And it's important when we're talking about people becoming Orthodox, young men becoming Orthodox. We do have all this great stuff that a lot of the other stuff in the world doesn't have, right? We have an all-male hierarchy. We have the 2,000-year traditions. We have all this stuff. And there's kind of different views on this topic, but some people would say that whatever gets you in the door is good, because once you're there, you're exposed to the truth and the saints and everything. Others will say, if you're not joining for the right reasons, then you probably shouldn't. Because at the end of the day, I think that the male hierarchy and the lack of a gay pope and all this stuff is really important. But at the end of the day, if you're going to become Orthodox, I do think you should do it for the right reasons, which is that it's true, right? You believe this is the body of Christ. And at the end of the day, as important as all this other stuff is, and it is important, that I think should be the most important reason, is that I'm joining this group because it is the truth. And when I take communion there, I'm partaking of the body and blood of God himself, because that's really the focal point of it.
Well,
Yeah,
two
if I
things,
had to-
real quick, I just got to say, we only got Brother Augustine for about 12 more minutes or so. So anybody who has questions for him, please get them in, and that way we can get them kind of asked here. But there was one other follow-up that I had, which is, I think, though, Brother Augustine, that one of those things leads to the other. Right?
Oh, it does, for sure.
You know, I think one of those things leads to the other. I think that people who are going to look for a message like that are looking for the truth. And so therefore they embrace what the truth is. I know that that's been exactly what's been happening for me. So, you know, at first, is there just a safe haven from this? And then it becomes, oh man, how did I miss this large, massive chunk of all of the history of the church? Right?
Yeah. And it was similar for me too. You know, I left
Yeah.
Protestantism because I was sick of the Zionism and the female quote pastors. But then that initial impetus to look into Orthodoxy turned into what you're saying of, oh, this was here the whole time. That's incredible.
Right. And I think that pro-human, pro-masculine message, I think that does lead inevitably towards people seeking the truth, and that's what they're going to find. Yeah. And so I think that the two things are very much intertwined. And you know, I'm just happy it's there. I didn't know it was there. You know, I really didn't know it was there. And that's the thing that really troubles me, because I don't think that that's non-intentional.
I think that's why I'm doing my ministry, you know, trying to get the word out, because until 2017, I'd never heard of Orthodoxy. All I knew was there was Catholics and Christians was how I, you know, perceived it at the time. I didn't know that the oldest form of it was there in the background in my city. There's like a dozen or more churches right here. Never knew.
Right. You just never knew. And the thing is when you find out the type of outreach programs that Orthodox do, they do a lot, but you still don't hear anything about it. That to me, you know what that is. Like, you know what I mean? You know what that is. And it's a mirror mask. It's a spell of some kind, because people will walk right past one and into a Protestant church, you know what I mean? And never even see, it's like they're blind to it.